Entering the UK bar offers autonomy, elite prestige, and the power to change a client's life from inside a courtroom. Many are drawn to those outcomes. However, the path to achieving them is often obscured by television tropes and intimidating centuries-old traditions that hide the day-to-day reality of the work. This guide strips away the romanticism. To survive this profession, you have to understand the financial, social, and psychological inputs required to even reach the starting line. Every prospective barrister faces a brutal attrition rate. Out of roughly 3,000 annual applicants, 1,624 enroll in the bar course. The drop-off is severe. Only 435 secure a pupillage. Statistically, you have a 1 in 8 probability of successfully securing a pupillage. The competition pool is exceptionally elite. These statistics include highly capable repeat applicants and international students who come specifically to gain the intellectual satisfaction and credentials of the UK system. This data defines the initial scale of the challenge. Before you can evaluate the actual work of an advocate, you have to accept that these are the entry odds. The gamble of those application odds is tied to a steep financial barrier to entry. You are required to invest heavily before you have any guarantee of a career. This flowchart compares training costs. You begin with a Stage 1 aptitude test costing £1,575. It tests your capability before committing to the £15,000 total cost of Stage 2. If you pass, institutional funding must intervene. Scholarships are essential to offset these massive fees. Historically and practically, the Inns of Court provide this funding. Beyond the money, the Inns serve as a resource for learning, support, and mentorship when you inevitably encounter difficulties during your training. Standing out in this process requires a strategic application. Good grades and a few mini pupillages are merely the baseline. They do not differentiate you from the thousands of other applicants. Evaluators look for specific documentation of your skills. Instead of generic statements about wanting to help people, you must provide a situation you encountered, the action you took, and the outcome you achieved. To provide those examples, you have to plot and record your life experiences years in advance. This is how you prove you are a pragmatic problem solver. Getting through the door requires treating your own career application as the first major case you will ever argue. If you secure a pupillage, the day-to-day reality of the court is a highly structured political environment. You have to act as the spider in the web. By arriving at court early, you can secure the conference room closest to the bench, observe the dynamics between people, and resolve issues with your opponents before the trial even begins. Clerks and ushers hold immense hidden power. They act as the judge's eyes and ears. Everything that happens in the corridors filters back to the bench through them. You trade your personal frustrations for universal politeness and emotional regulation. Any instance of rudeness to staff or opposing counsel can permanently damage your reputation. Preparation requires you to ruthlessly attack the weak points of your own argument. You have to identify the gaps in your case and address them before the opposition or the judge finds them. This makes client conferences highly confrontational. You must test the evidence and shatter complacency behind closed doors so that your courtroom persona remains composed and prepared. Mastering the hidden ecosystem of corridors and conference rooms is what determines the outcome of a case. The psychological reality for a trial lawyer is that in every single courtroom battle, 50% of the advocates will lose. You need the resilience to swallow public failure and return to court the very next morning without a safety net to do it all again. You carry the immense pressure of holding a desperate client's future, their freedom, or their family in your hands. That heavy burden is balanced by the reward of the work. You have the power to challenge parliamentary decisions, right historic injustices like the Hillsborough disaster, and force systemic change. Significant advances in law happen when advocates have the confidence to reject precedent, appeal a difficult point, and be the odd one out in the room. The early 20th century barrister Marshall Hall described the trial advocate as an actor with no written words, no backcloth, and no curtain. You are entirely alone, using questions to create an atmosphere out of someone else's life. This emotional toll and high-stakes pressure is the necessary price for the privilege of making a tangible difference in the world. Succeeding at the bar requires an entrepreneurial mindset and extreme adaptability. This quadrant chart plots your personal risk tolerance against your need for predictability. It serves as a test of your temperament. Those seeking a predictable schedule or non-confrontational paperwork belong in the lower risk quadrants. This path is not suited for them. The trial barrister zone requires a high risk tolerance and a low need for predictability. You must be competitive, adaptable, and willing to treat failure as data for the next case. Raw intellect is only effective if your personality can handle the inherent chaos and competition of the profession. Even for those who fit the archetype, burnout is common. Changing specialties or leaving the bar entirely is a valid, shame-free outcome. The training process provides highly prized, transferable skills. You learn how to advocate for a cause, synthesize complex data, and manage extreme stress. These specific traits make former barristers highly valuable assets in the corporate and industry worlds. The journey to the bar carries a high upfront cost, but the experience sharpens you into a resilient force, regardless of where you ultimately